Well, hello everybody. Pretty harsh morning indeed on our path to June 28th. Tough, but not surprising. Trudeau in like a dirty shirt, totally trying to upend us. In some ways he's winning. We're going to get into China and the sponsorship in the UNSC. We're going to go through a little field trip here for all Canadians and absolutely all Canadian Indian peoples, right through Métis and Inuit. China is not the dummy that the West and specific European countries like to make out. And unfortunately for most Canadians and First Peoples, you've never, ever been educated in any school history books on China, the absolute atrocities specific to UK and France, and of course Canada by 1867. Contrary to popular belief, the railway workers for the Canadian Railway right across Canada was done predominantly by Chinese workers. Chinese workers who were at the time paid $1 a day. They also had to pay for their food, clothing, and shelter and provisions along the way. All their work items, the East India Trading Company, through CP Rail, made certain all of those in the unequal treaties were a part of how they were going to treat those they captured all the way through to Beijing, from Taiwan to Beijing. A lot of Canadians don't know the history of what your filthy federal government did to the Chinese. How many died, were absolutely kept out of all celebrations on the construction of the railway, even though they were more than 2/3 of the labor force. My great-grandfather David was on that railway. I'm named after him. He did a good portion here in Alberta down south, the Lake Louise. He did all of that. He bought and settled basically Sundre, Alberta with that money. My grandfather Vic will go on to do much more and expand all the way into Shell's former properties. We ended up selling all of that in time of our life, but there was a time we were successful. But that legacy of the railway, predominantly all Chinese. Even my great-grandfather knew the truth of this. He didn't speak English either, but he was paid double what 2 Chinese workers got. They were treated horribly. And the Canadian government raped, pillaged, and plundered them. And how did they do this? Well, they went over like France and Britain did to create the unequal treaties through Opium Wars 1 and 2. They literally beat the Chinese, which they referred to as Chinks, subhumans. That's where the term comes from. It's a widely used derogatory racist word. You can look it up. It equates to nigger for the Chinese, and it's hateful speech. Words I don't create or use in any capacity. That's what our government used in its capacity. It's what our government did. Regardless of the First Peoples, regardless of people out west, the Northwest Rebellion, all over the impacts of the railway crossing, the forced removal of First Peoples and Western farmers, absolutely expensed. Chinese witnessed it all. Chinese government today in communism is absolutely in response to all of that, folks. If you've never read Opium Wars 1 and 2, I suggest you go do that. Queen Victoria all the way through. Queen Elizabeth II knows all about that. She was raised in all of that. Her father was a good man, King George VI, the king who didn't want to be king and wanted to end all of that evil. Evil that lingers today, and I can tell you, folks, Justin Trudeau trying to corrupt chiefs and putting the fear in them and making accusations against myself and the group doing the residential school genocide that is in fact embraced by the United States of America 60 Minutes did an excellent brand new expose just 1 week ago, entering in all of our data, all of our tuberculosis numbers, all of it. That's all post 1949, and absolutely King George VI's death from 1952 onward, folks. Shouldn't have a tuberculosis problem in Canada, none whatsoever. So there's definitely a problem that lingers and exists for Canada. Russia and USA don't come into the numbers. There's no doctrination of numbers. Those UN reports year after year, even the US goes, what the heck? How did we miss this? 60 Minutes, they reported according to my numbers 20 times that of the United States, and also as well the Russian Federation too, folks, all the way through the USSR, all overlapping years. So clearly it is Canada under the guise of the French and British as they were in 1867. Now of course UK and France don't exist like that, but absolutely Canada does, as its Colonial Constitutional Act of 1867 and subsequent Indian Act of 1876 continues on forever and a day. Even right now, as I give this video, even right now, there are unceded Indians at war with the government of Canada. No Canadian understands that concept. It's never highlighted in any international scene. We're fighting hard to begin that process, sponsored by China, who had their citizens taken from China to go work in Canada on that railway. Oh yes, Chinks, as they were referred to, as subhuman species, not unmuch like the First Nations peoples of Canada forever and a day. Chinese were never celebrated, never ever once even accounted for in the creation of the railway across Canada. It's all top secret, I guess, in history anyway. Not in world history. Most nations know the gross abuses. Canada still hides all of that. It's why China sponsors the First Peoples in residential school genocide. They were along for the ride too. Their peoples know all about it, and they know all about being a chink in Canada, where that word comes from. Go look it up, folks. It's why China is largely communist today. It's why they will fight tooth and nail. China alone could wipe out UK right off the mat. They have just as much nuclear firepower as the UK, but in fact way more military, way more technology than the United Kingdom, and France for that matter. There is no way Britain and France could stand against China. That's why they got their asses thrown out of Hong Kong, contrary to popular belief. Coffin City, Hong Kong, and that establishment is all a creation of the British government for over 100 years. They left, they can be pissy about it, but read the unequal treaties, read the sheer brute force, absolute genocide of Chinese people, and the absolute mistreatment of those people treated as inferior, less than human peoples. And UK at the time had the firepower, had all of that power, but China's made a comeback, a dramatic comeback, and they're scared. Rightfully they should be. So should Canada. So should Canada, as they have a lot to atone for. And we can keep lying, and we can keep denying, and we can hide history. But I'm going to say it again. That sponsored presentation, our case for the ICC, that we're so desperate to get a handful of chiefs who have reportable bodies to report. We're trying tooth and nail to do that, even with Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, trying to stop it. We're still fighting. We're still trying to get that done. We'll see if there's chiefs brave enough to get the works done, get the reports in, because all those countries are going to entertain it. Sponsored by China. There's no doubt why they wouldn't sponsor it after the treatment they've received from that empire system of colonialism. Logged in history for the entire world, unfortunately, Canadians don't get that history. We still plop a poppy on our shirts. You won't find Americans doing that. Oh, they didn't do that. You'll also find that the Americans got their treaties with China through diplomatic means, not forced tributes and not forced grabbing of peoples to force them onto ships and take them across seas to make them work in grievous conditions at absolute expense of their lives. China will never forget. That history is real. It's real in Africa too. They all know it's true. And people have to start waking up to reality. You don't. You're the fool, and you're going to be destroyed just as the first peoples and put to slavery just as all of that old style Europe did. Canadian government leads the charge on that new world order agenda, which is actually old world order agenda. Forever and a day. Forever and a day, folks. It's been a tough day. We had the Global Compact Migrant out of London, the woman organizing it that I participated in 2001. Those companies wanted me to come on board. Well, they're denying me and all the First Peoples group. I got that email debating about whether I should go public with that. Pretty pathetic. That's London, England, folks. A corruption of some pretty wealthy individuals all over the world, all over enforced colonial situations, jewels of an old world that's supposed to be illegal today, but these companies still operate in it, looking to be made favorites over domestic business, over the domestic citizen. That's the world agenda, and it's not new. It's not New World Order. They may call it that, but it's Old World Order. It's there to upset the balance of what the world is supposed to be, what all our ancestors who fought and died for in Second Colonial War, World War II. Freedom for all, and power to the people, national respect for boundaries and borders, allowing people to develop in self-determination. We, the people. Canada doesn't have any of that, never wants to have any of that. They've enjoyed being absolute dictators. They're never going to give it up. Share the video, get it out there. I know people are afraid. People say, oh, I'll get banned. If you were going to get banned, the video would be taken down. I would have been banned. I haven't been banned. My videos sit, they stay public, and they're irrefutable. Everything given to you is pure, absolute truth and fact in real history, regardless if it's removed from Canada's education system. It's there, it's real, it's credible. It's just sad that so many folks are left in the dark. Enjoy your day, folks. I'm going to enjoy some time with my children. Regroup. We're fighting tooth and nail all the way to the 28th, and we hope we win the Chiefs. Some of it's fear, some of it's absolute corruption tied directly to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Unbelievable. But share, get it out there. Don't be a cuck and don't be afraid. The truth sets you free. Bye now.